Hey, Redcasters, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Go Big Red.
Troy and I are in unbelievable relationship too. And Troy and I are in constant communication about this program and where we're headed. You know, I came here for two reasons. I love the community here and wanted to live here, and I love it here. And I wanted to rebuild Nebraska football. And, you know, Troy and I understand the steps that you need to take to make us Big Ten champions and national champions. This place is elite. And I want to be a great father, and I want to be a great college football coach. And so, I'm not going to talk a lot about job openings when they come. Maybe it's been a while here, but this is what happens when you win. I've dealt with it. We've won at Temple, and I dealt with it all the time. I've dealt with Baylor. I'm not going to talk about those things ever. I'm not going to talk about my contract here. I'm going to talk about the team. But I absolutely love it here, and I want us to continue to take the steps needed for us to turn this thing into a beast. And players all across the country want to come here. We have the best facilities. We have elite fans, and I'm just looking at the future. So, but again, I love that place. I love Pat. I love James Franklin. Sad that came to an end. I wish him the absolute best, but I'm really happy here and excited to get going this week on Minnesota.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast, the Husker Fan Sports Show.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, Honky, and I'm with Redcast Rob.
Well, I know that, it's been front page news lately that a lot of people are speculating that I will be leaving the Go Big Redcast to go elsewhere onto another podcast, but I am fully committed to the Go Big Redcast. I ain't going nowhere.
Well, that's good to hear there, Rob. Also with Redcast Boomer.
Well, I just know it's exciting times. We're 5-1, and we're now able to finally focus on the things fans really care about, and that's coaching contract language, speculation, what job is better than others, all the things we really want to talk about here on a podcast and in sports columns and message boards across the country. So
yeah, it's all off season. We have to deal with all this talk that's not about football. Then you get knee deep into the season. We're halfway through. We're 5-1. And all of a sudden, we're supposed to be talking about all the things other than what we just saw on the field. But I think as Coach Rule said, he goes, this is what happens when you win. And we won last week. And we're 5-1. And we're continuing to win right now. We're winning ugly, but we're finding ways to win. And I think we'll get a little bit into that, the Maryland game, look ahead to Minnesota. But, we can't help but have a conversation about all the happenings that have gone on off the field here in the last week. And then to be honest with you, I hope that we don't really talk about it much the rest of the season, because there isn't going to be much to talk about. There's not going to be a big aha moment here in a week or 2 weeks. It's going to take till the end of the season for Penn State to figure out what they're doing. And we're not going to make this a weekly thing of like where are we at with Coach Rule and Penn State and all that stuff. That's pretty pointless. But I think we can talk about Husker football and what they're doing right now. And we're doing a little bit of a new thing here this week. I want to add to it, and it's called What Did We Learn? And it gives us a chance to kind of go around the table here. Abbie's going to be joining us here at some point, so I don't know if she'll be getting on here as we are still doing the What Did We Learn segment. But Boomer, in the last week since we met, what did you learn?
Two things. First off, it's nice to see that Emmett Johnson is actually the second coming of Amir Abdullah here at Nebraska.
Yeah,
just watching him this last week, holy crap. Carrying an offensive, performance on your back a lot of ways for most of that game. So that was pretty exciting. And then the second thing, it's kind of what I'm kind of bullish on Nebraska for much of the rest of the season. We've got something, I don't know if I'd want to call it luck, but we certainly have some kind of a momentum in these sorts of games where they're close, and breaks that would have gone against us years ago are now kind of going in our favor. So one of the reasons I'm kind of looking forward to the rest of the season here.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense there. How about you, Rob? What did you learn last week?
Man, I have learned so much. I have learned that it is impossible to make some people happy. We could be 9-1 right now, and there would still be people online complaining about Raiola. There would be people complaining about us not running the ball or passing the ball enough, or some coach on our team needs to be fired because we aren't doing the right thing. And quite frankly, kind of encouraging me to maybe just delete all social media in general. If you really want a good time and want to see the miserable people, go to Facebook.
Well, no, I think there's a lot of truth there. And no matter what, yeah, your point, we're 5-1 right now. We've lost one game by 3 points. And I'm ecstatic right now. During the game, and Rob, we watched the game out there in Denver. Had the show yesterday with Dave. We talked about it. During the game, I get frustrated about certain things. I mean, I think that's pretty natural when you're struggling during a game and stuff. But at the end of the day, we're seeing the team fight through all those struggles and they figure out ways to win. And that's really important. And I love everything I'm seeing there with the fight and how they come back from it, and they're finding different ways to win games. So, Redcasters, should be a great time to be a Husker fan right now. It is a great time to be a player at Nebraska. It's a great time to be a coach at Nebraska. That's something I think I've learned here in the last week.
Well, Honky, too, on Saturday, the only one of us to not get up and actually go for a walk during the game was you.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't like to move much, in fairness. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was, boy, whew. There was one point where I don't think I sat down the entire fourth quarter. I was pacing around outside, like just, I don't know. I basically was just a babysitter or something at that point. Oh, man, I just couldn't deal. Could not deal.
They're tough games. When they're close like this, they're tough, but we're finding ways to win the close games. And as we go a little bit further in the show, I think we're going to talk about what's happening to win those close games. But let's move on here. Let's go to the tweets of the week. And we're going to start here. And, Boomer, I'll talk with you about this one here. This is from Bruce Feldman, and said that Penn State is eating a massive buyout to make a coaching change. What other schools might be next? Florida, Auburn, Wisconsin. Break down just how hot those coaching seats actually are. And then he had a quote here from Wisconsin has now lost 9 consecutive games against Power 4 opponents. They're 3-12 in the last 15. And Fickle here, he apologizes for it. They've been outscored 74-7 in the first half. But specifically here, he's been 15-17 at a program where Paul Chryst was fired after going 67-26 overall, 43-18 in the Big Ten. It's likely to get uglier. Wisconsin's next 2 games are against Ohio State and Oregon. They also visit number 3 Indiana. The combined record of the Badgers' remaining 6 opponents is 31-6, and his buyout is around $28 million. That's a lot, but it's hard to see Wisconsin giving him much more time. Boomer, Rob and I were in Denver. We went to a Wisconsin watch bar and watched Wisconsin playing the game. The biggest cheer was when they turned the TV off. So I guess this is a lot set up here to talk about. Wisconsin a couple years ago was tired of Chryst in that record there that he had, that 67-26 record, 43-18. There's another school that just fired somebody this last week that had a similar type of record, similar type of success. What are your thoughts on, what you're seeing right now from Wisconsin, and how does that correlate to maybe what's going on in Happy Valley?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, Nebraska fans have gone through all of this and have heard some of this before. I recall being told we hit rock bottom several times. Often it was very early in the Frost tenure. Like, I think that game where we got steamrolled by Michigan, what year was that? Was that his first year or second year?
2018, yep.
Yeah, so that was rock bottom, and boy, we found a hell of a lot more rocks and a hell of a lot more bottoms after that, still to come. I mean, it was pretty vicious. We were in the Marianas Trench by the end of that. But yeah, Wisconsin's in a world of trouble the rest of this season. I mean, they have not looked good at all this year, other than one game against Middle Tennessee State. They looked all right, but they don't play well. That game against Iowa was just abysmal. They were never in that game, and that might be the worst I've seen Wisconsin play since we've been in the Big Ten. I mean, they're just not good. And like it said, the schedule remaining is Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, and at Minnesota. I can't imagine they're favored in any of those games at this point, whatever metric you want to use. I would frankly be shocked if they won any of those games, to be honest with you. So, yeah, and the challenge is, they brought in Fickle. They were a Chryst, team, and they were that kind of standard Big Ten West team, probably the archetypical one back when we had split divisions. And they were kind of built to win the Big Ten West, kind of the same way Iowa was. It was a kind of a blue-collar, power-running sort of game. They could mix in some other stuff here and there, but that was kind of their focus, and that was good enough to win the Big Ten West. And the idea was they needed to make a change to compete in the new Big Ten, I think, is what they were thinking, and brought in Fickle, and he thought they needed to change kind of their identity, and he's never been able to get that established there. And once you start flailing for what you are and what you want to be, it's really hard to fix that. Who the hell would? I mean, what is Wisconsin good at? What do they do? What do they want to do? Does anyone know? I have no idea. I'm not even sure Fickle knows at this point. And yeah, if he survives this season, I'd be stunned. The only way is if Wisconsin just doesn't have the buyout or ability to negotiate it sticking around. I can't imagine he or anybody else there really wants to come back and do this again. And with Fickle, it may just be he's not cut out to be a Power 4 coach. I mean, he was fine at Cincinnati when they were what were they, Conference USA or American Athletic before they joined the Big 12. I can't recall which one they were. We'll say Conference America. We'll make our own conference up with the mid-majors back then. Yeah, and he was good there, but when he was the interim coach at Ohio State, wasn't great. Wasn't a great situation to be put in, but was a 500 coach at best there. I think that year he took over. So sometimes the Power 5 just isn't for him, and so that'll be the big question: can Wisconsin buy him out, and what would they do to replace him? I don't know. So.
Well, we've talked a lot in the past about, trying to find the right fit too. And these are tough jobs to go into when you're taking over Paul Chryst and he's had that kind of success and you're coming in, you're making big changes. Boy, Nebraska's seen that in the past with a couple of coaching changes, regime changes as well. I think this leads us to kind of where we're at right now. And Rob, I'll go with you on this one. And this is from Mark, Penn State sufferer. And Mark's a little bit younger here. So I was trying to respond to him politely, but I maybe he took it a little wrong. I don't know. But he goes, a lot of people that A, know nothing about Penn State or the inner workings of the program, or B, simply just like Penn State, have super strong opinions on how attractive the job is. Don't let these morons fool you. It's a top job. It'll be filled by a great candidate. I don't even question that. It is. I think it is one of the top jobs. Anything in the Big Ten and the SEC right now is a top job, and Penn State has a lot of tradition. What I responded to him was the fact that you call yourself a Penn State sufferer after firing a head coach who won 70% of his games over the past 12 years and went 2-1 the first college football playoff last season tells us a lot about the perspective you have as a fan. And his response is we shouldn't expect better for what the program has invested. We shouldn't want better when we know it's able to be done. What a moronic take. So I guess I gave Mark, the Penn State sufferer, a moronic take. But I mean, really, I guess what I'll ask you, Rob, is, should they expect better than going to the playoffs and finishing 2-1 in the first year of the college football playoffs? Should they expect better than 70% winning? Should they expect better than being in the top 5 and top 2, preseason top 2 and top 5 just 3 weeks ago, taking Oregon to double overtime? Should they expect better than that because they're the only ones out there that are putting investing in their program?
Well, what I'm going to say is going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to mean it when I say it, and I'll say it with my full chest, is does anyone actually remember the last time Penn State won a national championship? Everyone wants to give Nebraska a hard time about how, we're no longer relevant because we haven't won a national championship since the 90s. Pretty sure Penn State hasn't won a national championship since the Reagan administration. I think is that right? Oh God, I nailed it. Thank you. That was my best boomer take right there. Yeah. And so, and yes, I was alive for the Reagan administration. So I kind of remember that. But the fact of the matter is that one, I think he took your comment. I had to read it a couple times, like way out of context, but basically, you were basically trying to tell him, like, I don't know what you guys are expecting. You just fired a guy that was getting you where you wanted. And apparently it wasn't good enough because of a couple losses this season. And he called you a moron. So, I think that's the problem with a lot of these, what I'm going to call new age social media fans that spend all their time on there just expecting, the world to turn immediately for them. Instant gratification, and people don't understand that you can have coaches that are here for a long time and, they may have off years here or there, but the fact of the matter is that you have to step back and take a look at the successes and not try to focus so much on, the current failures, because, in a land where everyone is out there looking for that immediate dopamine hit, the fact of the matter is that so are, a lot of other schools at this moment.
Yeah, they're not the only one. I'm Abbie. Abbie's joined us now for the folks that are listening. Welcome, Abbie. And I'll just bring you right into the tweets of the week. We just showed one prior to you getting on here. We were talking about Paul Chryst and Fickle with Wisconsin and kind of the disaster that it is there. And there's a lot of talk right now about Penn State because of Rule, at least in this area, there's a lot of talk of it because of Coach Rule and the natural connection that he has, to his alma mater. But the reality is I want to look at it from a different perspective. Is this one of those moments for Penn State where they want to get better, right? They want to do better than what they've done. And what they've done is just fire a 70% win coach who immediately goes into the coaching carousel as probably the top candidate for any other team to go after. Did they make a good move in the first place by firing this guy right now and doing this?
Yeah, I think I am in the camp of I understand why they did, and I would not have done it. To me, this is you guys mentioned Paul Chryst and Luke Fickell. It's the same thing. I understand why Wisconsin fired Paul Chryst when they did. I think it was a mistake to have fired him when they did. I think it was a mistake to have fired James Franklin. I get it. Like, you're on a 3-game lose streak. You lose to the 2 at the time worst teams in the conference, although kind of surprisingly, maybe not the worst teams, who knows. But I just think I don't know. Like, you were just in the college football playoffs. Like, you were just there, and you were just in the Big Ten tournament or the Big Ten championship game. And you were like, coaches have bad years. Okay, maybe this was an 8-3. Can I do math? 9-3. Maybe this was a 9-3 season. Maybe this was an 8-4 season. It's Dustin and I talk about this all the time of like, you're not always going to be at that top. You have to take a little bit of that like down, and I don't think you're going to come back up. Their schedule is so different next year. They could have bounced back. I don't know.
You said
I am in the team of I get it and I don't agree with it.
Yeah,
and
you said the word Yep, you said the word perspective there, Abby, and I think that's right. I'm going to bring up a question that you asked too here, and I think this will help lead to that conversation. But you brought up perspective, and I'm not trying to beat up on Penn State sufferer guy there. That's not my point here. But it's this perspective of what I see when I read that, and I see me 20 years ago with when Solich is getting fired. I see what Wisconsin fan 3 years ago was thinking with Chris is, can it get any worse? We just lost to UCLA and Northwestern the last 2 weeks. It can't get any worse here. And all I can say is sit back and watch PSU. There's no guarantee you're going to get anyone better than what you had there with James Franklin. And when making playoffs isn't good enough there because it's national championship or bust, that's a really hollow way to look at success of a program. I mean, Boomer, you've talked about that before. You broke down the history of teams where it's like, if it's all about national championship or success or not, then the vast majority of teams are feeling, all the time. But I mean, that's a really high bar.
Yeah, I mean, like he was saying, though, he was commenting about how, should they expect more from what they've invested in their program? Well, is there a program that's gotten a worse return on investment than we have over the last decade? Or A&M? I mean, think how much money and time they put into their program, and they haven't even sniffed the playoffs anytime recently. And when's the last time A&M won a national championship? I mean, I don't even know what it was. Yeah, it's 40s or something. God only knows.
Boomer doesn't know, then it's really long time.
Off the top of my head, it's been a while. But, there's a lot of programs out there that only one team can win a national title in college football. That's how it is. And quite recently, only a handful of teams could make the playoffs. It's only recently that's been expanded.
1939, by the way.
Yeah, 39. I was guessing the 40s, but it was even before then. So, yeah, it's been a heck of a long time for them.
Pre-World War II.
Yeah, and crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, when you think about, they're willing to, fire a coach that went to the playoffs because they had a down year. And then I see them, asking for people, we should get Dabo Swinney to come here. Well, he's had down years. Are they going to fire him the first drop of the hat? They also want like Kurt Cignetti. Well, what happens if he doesn't make the playoffs one year? Are they going to fire him right away? He could be at Indiana for the rest of his career and, live comfortably there. He's making a pile of money, and the expectations aren't going to be nearly as high from the fan base there. Not as demanding anyway. So,
yeah, I think
they're going to be hurting themselves with their search by these. I'm not saying the AD is going to do that, but the fan base is certainly setting themselves up for disappointment.
I think this leads us right into Abby's tweet here. And Abby, I'll let you maybe talk and explain a little bit the tweet here too. You said you're looking for some genuine opinion. What is the benefit of firing a coach mid-season? Sometimes there's a boost from the new staff. Sometimes the team looks the same. We've seen that with like UCLA as a good example. Is it to jump on a coaching search without it leaking, to try and get your guy before someone else? Abbie, kind of give your thoughts on what you were thinking when you're tweeting that, and then let's have a conversation about this.
Yeah, I think it was like I get both sides of it. Like I understand the idea of like the AD has to show the fan base he's serious about winning football games. I kind of get it, but I just think like, how often does it outweigh, like how often do the benefits actually outweigh the potential of like losing of whatever could happen when you fire that coach, right? Like and I don't know that I have an opinion on it. I generally don't love when they fire a coach midseason. I wonder what that does to the dynamic of a team, if they like the coach or if they don't. I don't know. I don't know all of that. But it was just a thing that we had talked about on our way home from Indiana of like, what are the benefits? And those were the ones we could think of, right? Like you could get a UCLA with you could get a Clemson, right? Where Dabo came and took over and they looked like a whole new team. You could get Nebraska, and I put that in quotes because, like, yeah, when Frost left, Mickey Joseph took over, and we won a few games, but for the most part, looked just the same as we did when Frost was the coach, right? Like, it wasn't like a huge jump. So you could get a little boost, maybe win a game or two that you maybe weren't going to win under your original coach, or you get what happens most places where your team just ends up losing whatever games they were probably going to lose anyway. And I think about Penn State specifically, where like they were probably always going to lose to Ohio State. I think they play Indiana too. I don't know. Like there's a couple of these games where it was like, you guys were probably going to lose this game anyway. So now if your interim coach doesn't win the games that you think you were going to win, is it a win? Like, did it make sense to fire him midseason? And that's all we could think of. Is like, well, maybe it's a Wisconsin thing. My opinion of why they fired Paul Chryst when they did was because they thought we were going to go after Luke Fickell, and they really wanted Luke Fickell. And if they fired Paul Chryst like right away, they could start going after him and not wait to see what we did. That's my opinion because they copy us and everything. Is it like, can I start looking for a new coach if I already have a head coach? Like, how do you go about that? So if you fire the head coach, then it's like, hey, everybody knows we're looking for a new coach. And they're like, the secrecy is a little differently. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons. People gave a lot of really valid reasons on that. And I understand them all. And this wasn't like an argumentative tweet. It really was what do you view as the benefits? And some of them I don't think are really benefits, but others are just like, yeah, I could see that. But do you think that'll happen in this specific case?
Yeah. Boomer, can you post that one again there from Vince? If Franklin goes 9-3, can you get away from firing him? Now, and I get it, because that's like you're already saying you want to fire the guy anyways. You're looking for – to me, it looked like PSU was looking for every opportunity to fire him as quick as they could. I think an advantage of firing someone potentially early, we'll use the Frost case, is if it helps you get a jump on who your next coach is going to be. Now, I don't know that matters if you're going after Kurt Signetti or somebody who's in a job right now. Nebraska's case was very unique in how Frost was fired, and we ended up getting a coach who was also being fired at that time, but somebody that we really wanted in Coach Rule. And we had a 75-day honeymoon period with him where we're bringing him in, incognito to football games, and his family got to experience Lincoln. And by the time he actually said yes to taking Lincoln, it wasn't your traditional coaching hire if you have 1 week to turn around and make huge decisions. And a lot of times, coaches can make, rash decisions and not like it. I mean, Rule had every opportunity to vet this one through by the time he took it. I'm not sure. I don't know who Penn State would be going after right now. Maybe it's a Nick Saban or somebody who's not coaching, where now this gives them a couple of months to really get it right and make sure that but outside of that, I kind of agree here. Like, it seems like they just jumped the gun as quickly as they could to get rid of a guy who's been winning a whole lot of games for them.
Yeah, I guess when I'm looking at it, just to argue at a different perspective, part of it is we don't know what the behind the scenes are. I mean, has he lost the team, in the locker room? That's certainly
the boosters.
A possibility. And the boosters both. If he's lost all the faith in them, then it is hard to keep him. And you don't want to run the risk. I mean, if you do want to get rid of the guy, like Vin said, if he goes 9-3, that means he's beaten Ohio State and Indiana, and you're going to have a hard time firing a guy at that point at 9-3.
Oh, we've done it, Boomer.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is true. But I also think, you don't want to kind of run into the situation where the entire season, you're firing the coach at the end of it, and you're just kind of the rest of the season just a drudgery. Because I remember like when Callahan's final year, you knew he was getting whacked somewhere after that stretch in Missouri, Oklahoma State, A&M, when we were just getting steamrolled. Didn't matter what happened. Those last games were they were uncomfortable. Same thing with Riley. You kind of knew that, 2017, and once you lose to Northern Illinois, and, he was going to get fired at some point, in that last stretch. So it just kind of, if you're going to do it, maybe you just pull the Band-Aid off and be done with it. And, it does give you a chance to kind of start the whole vetting process and getting your people, your feelers out there, whether it's the current coaches or old coaches. And it also gives, conversely, this is something that's kind of come up a little, it gives Franklin a time to kind of adjust and start looking to see what he might want to do, because part of that is, I'm sure people have seen that, where part of contracts is you have to mitigate your loss there and try to find new jobs. So, eventually Penn State doesn't have to pay him a full $50 million a year, whatever he's owed in that. So I think that's probably what you do in this circumstance. If he's going to get fired, and you just go ahead and move on with it. It's an uncomfortable situation no matter what it was. It's kind of the same thing when Frost got let go. It was uncomfortable, but everybody knew it was a fait accompli at that point.
Boy, I'll tell you the difference, though. That Frost was after 3 losing seasons and losing to Georgia Southern, and this is 2 games and 1 quarter away from beating Oregon at home and staying in the top 5 and coming off of a college football playoff. Like that is where I would draw the big line and the big difference between Frost and Franklin. And I guess I'll go back to Penn State Sufferer's tweet. I'm not an inside guy at Penn State, so I don't know all the insider piece of it. I guess maybe it got that bad and that terrible at Penn State. And if it did, I'm sorry to hear that. All I know is be careful what you wish for. And that perspective of, can it get any worse than this? I sat with a bunch of Wisconsin fans last week, and I can tell you that they are wishing right now that they didn't do what they did 3 years ago. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe Penn State turns around, hires the next great coach, and they're winning national championships left and right. But the last I knew, the guy that rebuilt them from that low point that they were at 12 years ago when he got there is the guy they just fired. And they fired a guy who's taken them already to a playoff. They fired a guy that's won a lot of games there. He's lost some of the big ones. I get it. But be careful what you wish for sometimes.
You know what, Hunky? One of my favorite things about this weekend, so you keep bringing up how we were in Denver doing that, was being able to walk around and watch other fans be miserable, and it wasn't us being miserable.
It was wonderful. It truly was wonderful.
Yeah, it really was.
Abbie, what would you have?
Oh, I was going to say, it kind of going back to this idea of like, it's what Boomer said about like hire, right? Like, so who do they take away? Do you take away Kurt Cignetti from Indiana to a place where they're going to fire you if you can't win the big game? This is it, Nick, just what Nick is saying. Like, it sounds like what Nebraska did with Frank Solich. And I remember I was pretty young. And so maybe this memory is incorrect. Maybe it was just my parents talking about it. I don't know. But I remember there being an idea, or there being a lot of quotes from coaches that are like, if they're going to fire a guy who's 9-3, why would I go? Like, there was a lot of like, I don't like, that's success. Like, I don't want to go to a school where they're going to fire me for losing 3 games a year. Like, that was like a thing. And we thought like, oh, well, not we, sorry. Not me. I didn't want to fire Frank Solich, but I think the AD thought like, well, this is a really high brand. We are a high brand program. We weren't that far removed from playing in a national championship game. We weren't that far removed from a Heisman. Like, all of these things, we're a good enough brand. Our Nebraska means something. We're going to find somebody. And I think there is, as much as I think coaches have egos and they're like, yep, I can fix it. I can win there. I just didn't have the resources at my old school, whatever. Yes, it's a bigger brand. It's almost a blue blood more than Indiana. Like, maybe this is what Cignetti thinks, but what I really think is that coaches see what James Franklin got fired for. If maybe they know more stuff, maybe they don't, but I think they see that perception of like, oh, so if I don't win the big game, if I don't beat the ranked teams that are usually ranked ahead of me,
Mhm.
I'm going to get fired. I think that perception exists as well. And that's a thing that, like, I think I get it. Fans don't want to admit that. Fans want to be like, well, whoever we bring in will win those games. It's like statistically, probably not. And so you really are alienating a lot of coaches by being like, that performance, getting into the playoffs, being in the Big Ten championship last year, not good enough.
Yeah. And
What
in
is?
Penn State's case, they're saying we need you to come in. You better win now too. This isn't
ruined this for everybody.
Well,
by the way,
he has, but like what Coach Rule was brought in at Nebraska to do, which a lot of people looked at the success that we're starting to have in year 3. This was going to be kind of that year 3 build for 4 years. That's what it's going to take, but we're going to be patient for that. Penn State, that's not what you're getting right now. You better be winning a national championship right now. And I think it all comes back to perspective. I am old enough to remember the Solich stuff really well. And the thing with Solich was I don't want to sit here and say I wanted him fired. But I also don't want to, romanticize history either. And say, I can remember at the time thinking, well, boy, our perspective, we lost 3 or 4 games to Kansas State. We went 16-12 the previous 28 games. Like this, and 60-3 of the last 5 years of Coach Osborne were fresh in our minds, and it was a perspective thing. And then I can remember 10 years later when Pelini's getting fired, I can remember having conversations with people that did not like Pelini. And I understand all the reasons why they didn't like him. I get the, how Pelini came off in public stuff. I get it. But I would say, hey, he won 9-10 games every year. And they go, well, anyone can roll out of bed and win 9 or 10 games at Nebraska. I had one guy specifically tell me that. And my answer to him, I remember at that time saying my perspective had already changed in those 10 years. I said 10 years ago, you could tell me that when we were firing Solich, that anyone can roll out of bed and win 9 or 10 games. But I've lived through the Callahan era. I've lived through going 5-6 his first season, then going 5-7 the last year and getting blown out in games. I've lived through it. So you can't just say that. And now, that's completely blown out of the water. So it's all about perspective. And what I would say to Penn State fans is I wish you well, but be careful what you wish for. I will end this little segment on this part here. We posted something on Sunday and it said, Redcasters, no need to stress about rules showing up on Penn State hot boards. It's going to happen. Deal with it. But instead, put that energy to better use. Get yourself to the Twin Cities Friday night, make some noise, remind everyone Husker Nation second to none, go Big Red. And I think that's the best thing, the best way for Husker fans to use their energy in this is to pay attention to what this team is doing right now and not pay attention to all this. We're having this conversation right now because, quite frankly, I don't know how you don't. Everyone is. But I also hope we move on from this conversation and we don't do this every single week on the Redcast. We're going to make it a very clear point to try not to, unless there's some kind of new news that we should be reporting on. There really isn't anything to keep bringing up. And I hope when you get to press conferences and stuff with the media folks too, I hope that they're not just bringing this up over and over and over again. I don't know how many times you can ask Rule what he's going to do, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think he's answering it the most honest way he can and go from there.
Thankfully, you read the script, Tonky, so we're good.
Well, I'll say what I said in our chat is it's never going to be a certainty until somebody fills that Penn State job. Even he could come out and say, I'm not going to do it. And that Nick Saban quote will live in our minds. So we're not going to know for sure until somebody else gets that, or until he gets that job.
Yeah, until someone gets hired.
I mean, heck, there's Matt Rule quotes at Baylor that he had unfinished business and wasn't going to the NFL, and a month later he does. I mean, so take everything a coach says or an athletic director says with a grain of salt. So, I mean, it's one of the reasons I hope they don't keep asking the question over and over again, because there's no right way to answer it. If he says I'm not going anywhere, then he falls into that category of the coaches that have said that and then they go. And if he says, hey, I love my alma mater, which is what he said, then people are like, well, he's not closing the door. Let's just worry about the next game, and I'm pretty sure they are. But we move on from that discussion, and with Tweets of the Week, we move into our segment that we pretty much do every week, Boomer, and I'll lead off with you here. And this is a little bit of hate on the SEC because the SEC is so much better than everyone every year, and it's all obvious. But this was from Matt, and he says, check this out. Missouri drops only 2 spots for losing at home to then number 8 Alabama. Oregon loses at home to then number 7 Indiana. Oregon drops 5 spots. So Missouri drops 2, Oregon drops 5. Don't tell me there isn't inherent SEC bias. Disgusting work. Seems fair, right? Well, of course. I mean, Missouri has those key wins against, Central Arkansas, UMass, and who else have they beaten this year? Kansas, I think. So that clearly outweighs anything Oregon's done all season. But
who went to Penn State and won? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean,
Penn
they
State
also
nowadays,
they dropped Michigan completely out of the polls, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
That's
So,
2 losses. So it makes sense.
But 2 losses, yeah. I mean,
but Texas is ranked.
I mean, there's 2 lost
Yeah.
SEC teams in there too.
Yeah,
so I
but
get
SEC teams are on there. That's my point.
Yeah, and this has kind of been leading into the whole talk, again all week. I know Saban went off on this earlier about how deep the SEC is compared to the Big Ten, and there's the normal, ESPN, SEC, homers since there we go, good stuff there. How the SEC is on ESPN, who owns the media rights to the SEC, saying they're the best conference, and again, this is part of that whole politicking of it all, and how you're trying to set the battle space and prop the narrative for why they deserve, 5 or 6 teams in the playoffs compared to every other conference out there, and Saban himself saying the Big Ten isn't really that deep. It's not like you got 8 or 9 teams that can beat you. Well, I mean, maybe they do. I mean, UCLA and Northwestern have some wins, and Nebraska, heck, we're beating people now, and
what would be the narrative?
They say that, but the Big Ten every year, you see these head-to-head matchups in bowl games and things like that, and it's
no,
well, the bowl
but
games don't matter.
Rob, they don't want to be at those bowl games, so those don't count.
And I know he'd like to criticize Illinois from getting shellacked by Indiana, but Indiana's a good team. I don't say what you will about Illinois maybe not being as great as everyone thought they were. They were able to beat an SEC team in a bowl game last year, I seem to recall. But Indiana is a legitimately good team. I mean, I don't care what anyone says about it. You don't have to like them, but they just are. They are a good team. So getting beaten badly by them isn't a bad thing. And I did watch Ole Miss this weekend scrape by a Washington State team that's not good, and
that lost by how many points to Washington?
Yes, exactly. Washington, just probably a middle upper Big Ten team, beat the living crap out of Washington State, and Ole Miss was probably fairly lucky to win that game.
Yeah, Washington State went to North Texas and lost like 59 to 10 or something like that, and played within 3 points. Yeah. And I guess it all goes back, and I think this is a good one from exposing SEC bias. Let me bring this one up, Boomer. And it really does bring back the old triangle of, a lot of hilarious talking points getting spewed by SEC loving media in the last couple of days of the number of ranked teams left. Seems like a good time to bring this graphic up. And it all starts in the preseason. And we have this triangle that goes around. And it goes, the SEC is overrated. Overrated teams play each other. Loser barely falls. Strength of schedule goes way up. And that seems to happen over and over again. So South Carolina can be ranked earlier in the year, even though they're not good. They lose to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt gets ranked then Vanderbilt gets beat by somebody, and they get benefit by playing another ranked team. And it's this ranked after ranked after ranked opponent that you end up playing. Meanwhile, Nebraska goes 5-1, and just finally now are we sniffing one of the polls. We're behind Cincinnati in the polls, a team that we beat that has the same record. And it really gets back to the discussion that we've had in previous weeks of polls are just archaic and dumb and shouldn't be around anymore anyways. And they certainly shouldn't be the basis for who's getting into playoffs. We saw that a couple years ago with an undefeated, Florida State that won their conference and beat 2 SEC teams on their schedule. And that still didn't get them in. I mean, it's an archaic way of doing it, but yeah, the SEC talk right now and the amount of these ranked teams. And then when you go and you watch these teams play and realize, I mean, there's just, there's nothing. I don't know if there's a great SEC team out there right now.
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, Georgia is not the Georgia we've seen in the past. We mentioned Ole Miss. Yeah, they're undefeated, but they have some flaws. And Alabama, they're playing better, but they're not an elite Alabama team like we've seen in the past. And they have a loss to Florida State, who's dropped, a couple games in a row now. They're not a great Florida State team. I know people say that's a fluke, but, you shouldn't be losing a fluke game like that if you're an elite program. I mean, that's the way it is. So, there aren't a whole lot of teams that so far this year really stood out as, being that much better than everybody else. There's maybe a handful of Ohio States. Miami has honestly looked pretty good all this season. I hate say Indiana's looked pretty good. They have, and I know, Abby.
No, I know. And I know Texas Tech hasn't really played anybody because it's Big 12. But, I mean,
they look good in the games they played.
Just abolishing everybody they play, which is impressive. So
yeah, they look good for what they are. So, is the SEC top and bottom better than a lot of conferences? I mean, they've got good teams. Don't get me wrong. They're always going to have a talent advantage just by nature of what they are, but they're not necessarily any better than everyone else, I don't think, on a given week.
Yeah. Well, let's continue the tweets of the week, and let's get into scarlet colored glasses. Oops, let me click this, and let's talk a little bit Husker football. And the first tweet that will do that is from Arbitrary Analytics here. Let me bring them up. And the Huskers last won 2 road games in a row in 2020 at Purdue and at Rutgers, with a home loss to Minnesota in between. They haven't won road games in consecutive weeks since beating Iowa State and Kansas State in back-to-back weeks in 2006. So I think this is a good starting point here on this conversation. Rob, I'll start with you. We watched the game last week at Maryland. So we played 2 straight away games. We've won the first one now at Maryland. Now we come back this week. Short week, Friday night at Minnesota. What does it take to come back and win 2 games in a row like this, to win on a short turnaround, to play back-to-back road wins and get it? I mean, what's Nebraska have to do?
Look, man, you know what? They just got to get up for the game. I don't know. I mean, you can overanalyze this all you want, but I mean, Minnesota played a late game on Saturday night. Their game was after ours, so they have an even shorter turnaround. Yeah, we're not leaving for Minnesota until Thursday afternoon, so our guys have been, at our training table, at our facilities, working out in the working, like sleeping in their own beds. They're going to spend, one night in a hotel probably as a team, get out there, take care of business. I mean, everything on paper just shows that we should go out there and be able to beat this team. We have a better, they're not very good at rushing. They are okay at passing. We are the number 1 passing defense in the country. We get out there, all we got to do is run the ball against them. They're not a very good run defense. Purdue just ran all over them last week. So, I mean, what do they just got to go out there and play football. I mean, we have won. There are no excuses at this point. I don't care if it's a short week. They've won 5 out of their last 6 games. They lost by 3 points, like you said earlier. And, they are right now an 8.5 point favorite, according to Vegas and the bettors. It got up to 9.5 at one point. So, I mean, there are, nobody, I think ESPN even has like their predictive, win percentage at like 75% right now. So, I mean, just go out and take care of business, guys. There's no excuses. This team no longer has excuses. That's not who we are anymore.
Now, Boomer, if Dave was on the show, he would shriek at hearing no excuses, because what does that mean? Are there excuses, or should we not be building those in right now?
Well, I mean, you could have an excuse is that if you just completely lose this game for whatever reason, it basically would be self-inflicted, I think, at this point. I mean, I've watched Minnesota play a decent amount this year. I always keep my eye on Minnesota, since they're our arch nemesis for my alternate lifetime, timeline, where we joined the Big Ten back in the 19 teens or 20s or whatever, when they were our nemesis back in the day. So I always kind of do keep an eye on Minnesota. And they're really not a very good team this year, or they're not the typical Minnesota team we're used to, where they, run the ball well and have a overpowering offensive line. They don't have that this year. They can't run the ball well. They start games very slowly. And I think, this is a good opportunity for Nebraska to get out early on a team. We're usually pretty good at starting games and getting points up. And I think this is a really good chance to really, kind of possibly bury a team early. Because if you watch the game against Purdue, their first drive had about 22 yards. Then their next 3 drives were 3 and outs, and that got them all the way into the second quarter. So I think we've got a very good chance to see a lot of extra possessions in this game against Minnesota. And I'm not sure they have the defense to be able to stop, some of the offensive plays we have, whether it's the screens that seem to be working. If Emmett Johnson, who might have a point to prove against Minnesota this week, because they didn't recruit him apparently very heavily, if at all. So I think he might have a little something to show there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Mr. Minnesota, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. I'm still surprised they didn't go after him, at the time. And I think this is another opportunity where Rule might be trying to, exercise some of the demons, that we've had in the program. We've talked about winning these close games. We've kind of learned how to win these. And what we're seeing here, Minnesota's been a bugbear for the program for the last, 5 years. What have we lost? 5 out of the last 6 to them, I think, in various weird ways.
We've lost 5 straight to them.
Yeah, 5 straight. Yeah, like that 2020 game was inexcusable to lose to them. What we saw in arbitrary analytics, they had like a third of their roster because they all had COVID or whatever. They still came here and won. It was that was a downside to us. But I think this is a chance for where Rule is going to try to exercise some more of that. Because not only are we playing Minnesota on a short week, we're also wearing the classic surrender whites, which people don't like to see us in. But I think it's just another thing. He's trying to go and break that away. Get that mentality swept out of there by, hey, we're going on the road, we're beating Minnesota, and we can wear all white uniforms doing so. I think it's just a combination of that. And I would be shocked if we lost this game. And I think if we do, it would simply be another one of those, where we somehow managed 3 or 4 turnovers, which is what Minnesota needed to beat Purdue. I think they had 4 turnovers in that game.
Which is what we did a week ago.
Right. And it would take
which is what we did a week ago and found a way to win even with that, which is unbelievable to be -3 on the road and win in turnover margin.
Yep.
I mean, Abbie, I think that's Boomer just mentioned a lot of different things about exercising demons there, and winning close games and winning on the road are part of them. But also, we've had fast starts now for a couple of weeks in a row. We've had double-digit leads go as far as back as Cincinnati, double-digit lead, and double-digit lead against Michigan State, and double-digit lead against Maryland. And we've done enough things to give that up to make the game closer than it probably really should have been. I mean, let's take the opposite approach to this. Is this a game where if the old saying, you lose big, then you lose small, you win small, you win big. Is this the game where we start to win big? Is Vegas right here? Is this going to be a double-digit, win where we're not breathing hard up to the last second?
I would love that to be true. I will tell you, I think I tweeted it. We talked about it last time. My Nebraska PTSD is not gone. So I would love this to be a time where we just curb stomp Minnesota. I fear that we will get out to a big start and then do what we've kind of done in the middle of a game and then close the game out strong. I hope that that's not what we do. Like, I hope we, even if we just are kind of kind of slow in the second quarter, maybe we start our fourth quarter in the third quarter and play a whole second half. I don't know. I want, as they said in X-Files, I want to believe that this is it. And I think this would be what a great game for this to be against Minnesota in our whites on a Friday, all with EJ, having a fire night. I want that. I think that would be great. I would love almost nothing more than curb stomping PJ Fleck. And the only thing I'd want more is just a curb stomp Iowa. I'm not quite 100% believing that. But if I manifest it, I'll just keep saying it until it happens. But that'd be great. I mean, I think as much as winning close games and getting punched in the face and coming back has been good for this team, and I think it really has been. I think it's really instilled a lot of confidence in our team. I think winning big is that next step, and what a game to do it in.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree there. Rob, we talked about, at the game, you talked about the PTSD, Abbie, at the game that Rob and Dave and I watched, I wasn't loving a lot of things during the game. And I always have a different perspective after the game. When you get a chance, I want to rewatch film and everything. But during it, I was seeing a lot of the things I didn't want to see in the moment. But when you go back and rewatch I'm as positive as you're going to get. I love the fact that, and sometimes you see things live that aren't real. The run game was better than what I thought I was seeing live. Now I still want to see more. I still want to see a better run pass ratio, even with as much as they were feeding Emmett on Friday. We still threw the ball more than we ran it. It was one extra throw to Pat. We need to consistently run the ball, and we do our best at that. And we've made our biggest mistakes in the pass game through sacks and interceptions. But like Rob said, you guys were up and walking around and taking walks during the game. That's the PTSD in all Husker fans. I get it. Don't ever change Husker fans.
My favorite part was I was in the bathroom and there's these group of guys that followed in there, and I'm just doing my thing, and they like come in and they're just like, man, Rule is not our coach. This guy, he just needs to go. Like, oh my God, we just hired the wrong guy. This is never going to work out. And God, Raiola just needs to be benched. They just need to put in TJ Lateef and just get it over with, because this just can't continue. We're going to lose this game. And like after the game, I walked by their table and I looked at them and I was like, never a doubt, go Big Red. And they just all glared at me. So.
I had people texting me the next day saying that, this guy should be benched still, or this guy should be benched. I'm like, we did win, right? I mean, like, did I miss something? Like, I know it wasn't the prettiest, but there is a beauty in not being pretty too, and how you win, that you found different ways to do it, and you can win ugly.
I would rather win it and not be pretty than lose and it be.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, Boomer, I want to throw this one to you. This is from our good friend Vegas Jer. And he does such a good job with this every year. He lives up there in Minnesota, does such a great job promoting the Broken Chair Trophy and the great history behind the Broken Chair Trophy. But, okay, Husker podcasters time. I've supported you for all these years now, and I have a favor. Team Jack needs you. thebrokenchair.com/history. Go to that website. But Boomer, they have the great week of the Broken Chair Trophy, the contest or competition that goes on between Team Jack and a great charity up there in Minnesota there as well. So talk a little bit about this. I know this has a special place in your heart. This trophy does, and what we should all be doing, Redcasters, go out there and support Team Jack through this week.
Yeah, this is what would normally be considered a classic Big Ten trophy game. I mean, I know we have those forced trophies with Iowa. Which one's Iowa? Is that the Heroes Trophy or the Freedom Trophy?
Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But then the one we have with Wisconsin, where it's the corporate approved, we sat around in a boardroom and, took some polls and got with some sponsors and decided what we want to call a trophy and made some random bronze thing for those. And those are fake. But when you think of the great Big Ten trophies, they all have these weird, bizarre stories behind them, like old oaken buckets or jugs where they started because they thought the other team was poisoning their water, things like that. That's where, the great Big Ten trophy games come from. And that's the same thing with the $5 bits of Broken Chair. So, for people that aren't aware of it, how it stemmed from is, if you remember Faux Pelini on Twitter, who had the great kind of homage and parody of Bo Pelini with his slight bits of anger. He had a great exchange with the Goldie Gopher mascot on Twitter, which is, something you can only say in the modern era when it comes to building trophies about, how they should, approach a game. And the talk was, if we win, what do you give us? And well, if we win, can I break a chair over your back, kind of thing. And then it kind of grew out of that, and they put together a trophy out of that. And, it could only be worth about $5 to assemble. The original one was lost to time. Somehow our athletic department lost it because I think lost it. I'm fairly certain they threw it away, hoping it would disappear. And that's the beauty of this trophy is, again, it was brought about by fans rebuilding it and putting it back into the kind of the back and forth between Nebraska and Minnesota. Like I said, Minnesota was our major rival back in the early years of the program. I mean, that was the measuring stick we used to measure how good we were as a team, because Minnesota was the power of, what was called Western football back then, which is anything basically west of Michigan. I mean, they were a great program, and we had coaches that if they couldn't beat Michigan, they got fired. That's the main reason. Like, if you go back in the early years, why Bummy Booth, one of our best coaches, he never really was able to get over that Minnesota hump. Beat him once, I think, if I recall. Mm-hmm. And when he got fired, he had programs here where, if you think, Franklin got a bum rap. I mean, Bummy Booth had a team that they didn't get scored on all year. They didn't lose and they didn't get scored on. And he still got fired partially because they or let go because he couldn't beat Minnesota on a regular basis. But anyway, that notwithstanding, this whole program is just kind of great. It's a great way for fans of both programs to, donate money. For us, it's Team Jack, and for the Gophers, I believe it's the Masonic Hospital, the Children's Masonic Hospital there. So it's a great opportunity for fans of both teams. So if any Gopher fans are listening or any Husker fans are listening, you can go to the Broken Chair Trophy website and donate, and they keep track of that and just try to see, which fan base comes out on top. Yeah, there it is right there. So we'll post some links to it as well on all of our social media. So, go ahead and please, throw something in there. It's all for a good cause, whichever team you're rooting for. It's just part of the whole fun of a regular rivalry here in the Big Ten. Just having a fun trophy and something good coming out of it.
You know what I love about it is that like I love that the schools, while like maybe an old administration threw the trophy away and hoped it wouldn't continue. I love that last year we didn't play Minnesota in football. And so what the athletic department did was they were like, hey, we play them in volleyball. Let's make that the trophy game. So like it's whoever is in there now, whoever it is, has embraced it. And they're just like, you know what? This is fun. Let's do this. And so like shout out to the fun lovers in the athletic department for being for finding a way to keep it going even in this weird football schedule that we have.
Well, I guess now is a good time to say too is that I did make a donation on behalf of the Redcast for $200 earlier this evening. So,
all right, way to go, Rob.
Well, as of right now, and I'm going to bring them both up here. This is, and Boomer, I'm glad I forgot the name of the one. It's the Masonic Children's Hospital there in Minnesota. They've raised so far $3,276 of their goal of $15,000. And for Team Jack here, we've raised $8,422 so far for the Broken Chair Trophy. Keep coming, both fan bases. Let's get this thing built up as much as we can. But of course, Husker fans, let's at least win by $1. Let's at least win by 1 point and make it a great week. But two great charities there, and just a great program all around there. So Vegas Jared, we always thank you for promoting the heck out of this, and we hope that this is helpful in what we're doing here. Last but not least, as we're talking Husker football here, let me get to posting this tweet. Boomer, I'm going to start with you again on this because these are both special teams related here. I posted this during the game. I think it was right after Williams ran back the kickoff to the 5-yard line. But it was, what would NU's record have been if Eckler was our special teams coordinator the past 10 years? Because all those close games, we would have had a chance to win we would have won every one of those. I'm convinced of it. If we punt the ball to the right side and we don't get blocked punts and we catch punts and we return kicks, like it's insane what he.
We don't return the punt and then step into the end zone and then step out of bounds or whatever the frick happened in that Illinois game.
Yeah, don't step out at the 1-yard line. Don't field it inside your 5. Don't, don't miss field goals left and right. Don't think you can't kick a field goal if it's more than 20 yards away. Yeah, there's so many games where special teams would have been just even average. We probably could have flipped a lot of games in the last. Although God only knows with the luck factor we had back then, we would have found another way to lose them. But it's just it is incredible how big of a difference this clearly makes, and it's so visible in these games. Even when the other teams are starting to rally, all of a sudden, if you can count on returning a kickoff to, putting you in a score position and immediately getting a touchdown right back. I mean, think how key that was in this game this week, and how close these punts have been to, either making a touchdown or flipping games. And it's just, it's just, yeah. And Dave Fight's got a great tweet there on it. Just our punt return yardage for this year. We have 238 punt return yards in our first 5 games, and for the previous 49 games from 2021 to 2024, at 225 punt returns. I mean, that's just incredible, just how miserable we were for so many years on punt returns. And we make fun of Iowa for the way they play, but if you watch Iowa, you see how big of a difference it is just being able to flip that field when it comes to punts and punt returns. I mean, that just saves you so much in games. We could even kind of see, things on that, just feel how important field position is, with Maryland, getting that kickoff return. He didn't score a touchdown, but we had the ball on the 20, and guess what? We were able to score a touchdown on it. Just all those, if you can count on being able to kick field goals, which we should probably do more in opening drives, but that's a different conversation. But just we have that opportunity. I'm not nervous that we're going to miss a field goal, anymore.
And it can flip momentum so fast.
Yes,
we had a 10-0 or 10-0 lead or 14-0 lead. No, for 10-0 lead, I think it was in this game. And then they came back and scored 14 unanswered. And the momentum's completely flipped to Maryland. And it's like, geez, and that PTSD starts to come in, and this is that moment. Is this going to go bad? And then they kick it to us, and we run it back to their 10-yard line. It's like, we're right back in control. We're right back in charge. And those big momentum-changing kind of plays that can happen so easily on special teams, all the different units. It's so good to see that we're on the right side of it. And what Coach Eckler has done, I just can't say anything more than that. But do we have any comments, Boomer, before we move on to the courtside cooking? Is there anything that we want to bring up from the folks that have been watching along?
It's fairly quiet so far. Someone was concerned the surrender whites are a built-in excuse, but I think it's just an attempt to exercise the demons, or maybe the Reds are in the wash this week. I don't know, but I'm not a huge fan of all white uniforms for anybody. But that's just a whole sense of tact and fashion. But I don't know what you guys feel about whites. But yeah, otherwise we got that, and we got a way to go, Rob, from Marty Honky with the donation. So good to hear there. So
well, there you go. All right, well, I think it's time to move on then to courtside cooking, and it was just another weekend, Abby, of pure domination.
Boring now.
But I mean, look, that you were at the game at Purdue. And
Yeah.
you were legitimately concerned going into that one. That was one of those games where you're like, this is number 12. And if you were expecting a 4-set game or something, at least that was not a sweep, you were expecting to see it from Purdue. And I mean, it was another dominating game again. And so, is this team just getting better every week, or are they just that much better, period? I mean, are you seeing them play better from week to week, or, where are they at right now?
Yeah, I think you're seeing Nebraska somehow keep getting better, which doesn't seem possible. Because even when they're human, and they looked really human in that first set against Purdue, and I will tell you, being there, I told Dustin, I was like, we could lose this. It was point for point for point for point for point. You just couldn't. I was like, this is going to be like a 35-34 game. This is never going to end. Those Purdue girls were hyped. They were ready. They came out with a lot more energy than we did. And so looking that human and then still being able to pull it off was like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So then second set happened and it was like, oh, right. This is the team. And I think I tweeted it at that time. Like, that's the Nebraska team that no one is beating. If Nebraska plays like that against anybody, and I'd say if they play that way against Texas, as good as Texas thinks they are, it's what the 23 national championship flipped. We run them off the court. We win in 3. There's no stopping them when they're playing that well. And I think like the epitome of that, and not just at the Purdue game, but this whole weekend, the epitome of that is the fact that Harper Murray took, somebody do math for me real quick, of 27 plus 25. So that's 52. 52 swings, 1 error. 1 error. You can take 52 swings on an open net and get more than 1 error. So that's hitting into the block, that's hitting it out, that's hitting it not over the net, right? 1 error. And for an outside hitter, I don't know how to describe how difficult and like damn near impossible that is. She hit like a 561 for the weekend. And then of course, remember, hitting percentage is like totals, is like a kills minus errors over total. That's amazing. An outside hitter should hit like a 300 and be very good. That's insane. So like this team is just, they're on another level. And obviously because of my affiliation, whatever, I like Purdue. I think Dave Shondell's a great coach. I think he's done a good job getting that program, getting this year, specifically this year's team, to where they are, having lost the players that they lost and bringing in who they brought in. Potentially a number 2 team in the conference. Yes, Tony, I will get to your point about Harper having to share player of the week. But so you've got a team that is in the running to be the number 2 team in the conference. They could play Wisconsin really closely. They could play Indiana really closely. Like, you're looking at the best, and we are just like that much better. The tier that Nebraska volleyball is in I don't know that we've ever seen it. I honestly don't know that we've ever seen it in comparison to the rest of the country. And we got Mick Haley, the Texas guy, to finally admit that we are the better team than Texas. And I'm sure that took just about everything in his power not to have to do. So yeah, we are just that much better, which feels really weird. And we've gotten to the point where we're so good that we're complaining about our players not getting individual awards. Or like Anthony said, having to share individual awards now because we have no adversity. We have nothing to complain about. We're 22 sets straight. We haven't lost a set in the conference. Like, we have nothing to complain about except this. And we will complain about it.
What is, what the challenge there from a coaching perspective? Like, how do you create that adversity then when there isn't any? Because you want some at some point. And I know that we're going to be playing a Minnesota team coming up here that's decimated by injuries. And I know that Wisconsin may not be at their best when we play them on homecoming or on Halloween weekend. We want to play teams at their best right now, right? And Penn State would have been a great environment, a tough environment to play in. And we're just boat racing these teams, and it's fun to watch. And I'm trying to create drama where there isn't, but like at the same time, like we don't we want some adversity at some point to see this team really challenged. We saw it early with Kentucky in the reverse sweep, but short of that, Creighton kind of but yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I think we're creating, look, again, humans crave adversity. It's not fun if it's too easy, right? Like it is, on the one hand, it's really fun because you're just like,
it's fun for us. I'm having a blast.
But. Yeah, no, as a fan, it's fun. I'm sure as a player, they're just like, okay, great. But yeah, I think you're right. Like people really crave adversity because it gives you a storyline and it gives you like, you're not just seen as, I saw somebody say that like Nebraska should have an asterisk next to their record because nobody even comes close to their talent, which like, LOL, but whatever. But right, like people are just like, but it's too good. Like, right, nobody likes you when you're the Dodgers or whoever, right? Like the Yankees, all of these people. Nobody likes Ohio State. Nobody liked Alabama football except those fans. Sure. Because they never had any competition. And it's just like, okay, I'm bored now. So I think, yes, we crave some adversity to just kind of be like, no, it's not that easy. Like, oh, right.
But isn't that kind of, let's use the Penn State game as the example. We created our own adversity. We were mad about getting beat last year by them twice. We're going down there. It became a revenge thing, like we had their full attention. And it looked like we were going for the throat all the time.
Never played volleyball before.
Yeah. But that was the best. That might be the best I've seen us play from start to finish. Like that was a team that was not bored. Like that's what I fear when you continue to beat these teams the way that we're beating them is like, you risk being bored. And I know we can still win a game even being bored. The one advantage I think we have is we could literally, our starters could go out there, be completely play like bored, get down 5 points. And I could see us swap out all 6 players and the next group comes in and gets it back. They're just that deep and that good, but it's like creating that adversity. They kind of did a little bit. They created their own adversity going to Penn State and played the best game I've ever seen.
Yeah, honestly, I think the adversity is a bigger picture for them. So for them, it's not like I'm playing the best team. Like we're playing really, I don't want to disparage the other teams in the Big Ten. They're all very good. It's just, league of their own right now. But I think the adversity for them is 2 years in a row, they choked near the end. And Danny choked near the end, right? Like as a coach, multiple times she's gotten to the national championship game and hasn't gotten over that hump. Nebraska has gotten to the semifinals in the national championship game and haven't gotten over the hump. I think that's their adversity. And that's less fun right now. But I think that's what keeps this team motivated is they're like, we got to do what we got to do. We got to get to that point. That can't be our narrative. That can't be the story of that class, right? Like that freshman class is crazy talented. Not the current freshman class, sorry, the current junior class. But when they came in, right, got to the national championship game, choked. Got to the semifinals last year, reverse swept, right? Like did all these things. And so that I think is what is motivating this team. And specifically those girls is they're like, this is not our story. We are not the class that choked. We will finish this. So I think that's their adversity. If you want to talk about like if revenge is it, I think that's it for them. And that's maybe as fans what we have to keep in mind.
That's a good point there. Looking at the schedule, they just got done beating number 12 Purdue on the road. This weekend they take a trip up to Michigan for Michigan State Friday night at 6 p.m., which the Huskers play football at 7 p.m. So let's hope that we can get a quick sweep there. And then on the 19th, they play at Michigan. Now, the one thing, Abby, that I'm noticing, there's number 12 Purdue, but as I'm looking ahead, Michigan State, Michigan, Northwestern, Michigan State again, even at Wisconsin, Oregon, I'm not seeing any numbers next to their name. I'm not seeing ranked teams coming up here.
There should be. Wisconsin's ranked. Yeah, I don't know why they don't have rankings.
Why? Okay, because Minnesota's not ranked, right? Because they.
No, I think they're still ranked.
Are they still ranked too?
Yeah, Minnesota's 18th.
Okay,
yeah,
well then
Wisconsin's ranked, Purdue still, Minnesota's 18, Indiana's 22, UCLA's 23, USC's 25. So Illinois is not ranked. Iowa's obviously not ranked, but yeah, they're just not up there. I don't know why.
Okay, so good. I was looking at that thinking, like, what in the heck? Do we not have any ranked opponents left? But you're right. I mean, we've got so with that, we have Wisconsin, Wisconsin's on Halloween night. And after that, Minnesota, UCLA, USC. So there's a number of ranked opponents still that are on the schedule coming up.
Yeah, you better get that corrected, Honky, because otherwise Nick Saban will be criticizing the volleyball schedule.
Yeah. Well, and keep scrolling down, Honky, because who do we have at the end of the season again? So if you scroll down,
we'll have Penn
Iowa,
State again,
Indiana, and then we get Penn State on Black Friday.
Yep.
So, yeah. Then who knows what Penn State's team is going to show up.
Well, this weekend, Abby, do you have any predictions on the Michigan road trip?
I mean, we're gonna win. I don't foresee this team dropping to these two teams. I mean, Michigan State they handed Indiana their first conference loss, so good for them. They are very good at home. Michigan State is, but I don't foresee there being problems in either of those two games. So sweeps, let's go sweeps. Why not? Let's make it 26, 28 straight. I can do math. I went to school for math. Yeah, let's make it 28 straight. Why not?
Love it. All right. Before we go into parting shots here, I know we went into courtside cooking. I forgot to do our by the numbers powered by HuskerMax. I want to bring them up. This is for the Nebraska football game here on Friday night. So by the numbers powered by HuskerMax. Stat-wise, just making some comparisons here. Nebraska, after last week's game, we are now 90th in the country in rushing offense at 139 yards a game. We are 9th in passing offense at 310 yards a game. 10th in passing efficiency. We're 27th still in total offense, 450 yards. And scoring offense, we are 11th in the country, 41 points a game. Defensively, our rushing defense is at 151 yards a game. That's 81st in the country. Our pass defense still is number 1 in the country, 118 yards. Pass efficiency defense, number 2. Total defense is number 14 in the country at 269 yards a game. We kind of did this last week here. Boomer, I'll start with you. As we're doing a stats matchup between them, is there anything that stands out to you, an area where Nebraska has an advantage or Minnesota has an advantage, something that you're watching between the two?
I think if you just look at the stats, I mean, the clear advantages are to Nebraska. I mean, I was really surprised when the line opened as low as it did. To start, what did it open at? 4.5, I think, is what Vegas set it at originally. Mm-hmm. And I know it moved quite a bit. Nebraska's favorite. It got as high as 9.5. So I thought it was going to be more around the 6 end. Just if you look at the stat numbers, it just seems that so much more is in Nebraska's favor. Like if you look at the total offensive numbers or the scoring offense numbers.
Yeah, Minnesota's 104th in the country in total offense.
Yeah.
And 27th in total defense.
Yeah, I think they're just going to struggle to move the ball. And like I said, they start so slow. I think we're going to get extra possessions at the beginning of games, and we tend to play pretty well. And I think there's a decent chance we could put up a good pile of points early on Minnesota, and they're going to have a hard time, coming back from that if that's the case. Unless we just play horrendously poorly, come out of the gate, and have a 3-and-out or more red zone failures, early on. But maybe we can fix that this week. And this is just a game I just don't see Minnesota being able to win this one. I would be shocked if they did, just based on statistics, what I've seen from both programs. It would take some effort to lose this one, I think.
Rob, your rushing offense, you mentioned earlier Minnesota not being very good. It's
They're
hard
not.
for me to look at this. They're 114th in the country at 112 yards a game. Minnesota, I mean, this is PJ Fleck. If there was one thing that you could count on for a number of years, they were going to have a strong running attack. And yeah, that they don't have it this year.
No, it's a matter of just us going out there and sticking to our guns. I think the biggest 100 wow. Yeah. It's terrible. I watched this Minnesota team in two different games. I watched them against Purdue. I watched them against Cal. I think those are the two games I watched. They lost to Cal, a Cal team that then went out and lost to San Diego State the following week, 34-0. So, I mean, this is a team that outside of all of the traditional, PJ Fleck mumbo jumbo that we deal with every year and somehow not being able to beat that team and something bad happening. I think we just go out there and take care of business this week. There's not really a whole lot. All of the stats that are on paper, I mean, there's just about nothing there that indicates that Minnesota should win this game.
Yeah,
Abbie,
you want to talk just for the rushing numbers, just in their last three games, which were against Rutgers, Ohio State, and Purdue, they rushed for 35 yards against Rutgers, 60-some against Ohio State, and then 30 against Purdue. I mean, they cannot run the ball.
Their leading rusher has like 200 and something yards. Yeah.
Abbie, how about you? Is there a certain stat that you're looking at or a certain area matchup-wise with Minnesota?
I don't think it's on here, but I think the stat that I would go off of, and this is, again, based on just a limited number of games, including the Purdue game, is it's not really a stat. It's just an idea of like, if this isn't the game to just come out and just run the dang ball, I don't know what is. They will allow teams to run. They have allowed teams to run all over them, and they have much like Maryland had a very had an opportunistic secondary. Minnesota likes to they have an opportunistic defense. They're not a great defense, but they'll intercept balls. They'll go after them, and not that I'm concerned about Dylan, but I mean, why give them the opportunity? The only way that the reason they beat Purdue is because of that turnover. Is because of a turnover. And Purdue just kind of sputtered out, as maybe a new team is want to do. But I think if you cannot give them the opportunity to stay in the game. And one way they stay in the game is through interceptions. No. So I am a big proponent. Let this be an EJ revenge game. I don't care. Let him run the ball. Run the ball and stay running the ball. This is the game. I think that this is Rule's chance to say, like, hey, I want this to be our identity. I want us to be able to run the ball. This is your opportunity to just pound that home. So again, not a specific stat, except that their like rushing defense isn't great, but I mean, neither is ours. But our rushing offense, this could be a really good opportunity for them.
It's improving for sure. The turnover margin, we're 41st in the country now. In turnover margin, that's including last week's game where we were -3. And as we said earlier, you don't win games on the road when you're -3. All three of those are interceptions. I think it's interesting to break those three interceptions down. One of them, Dylan just wishes he had back, the one where he threw it inbounds but intended to throw it out of bounds. So he'll get better with that. The other one, when he threw the interception to Cortez Mills, there is a miscommunication there between a sophomore quarterback and a freshman wide receiver. There's an opportunity, coachable moment between that. I'm not the coach to say who made the mistake, but there was clearly a miscommunication. But the other one, the third interception they had, I think it's a fascinating one because it's the first time this season we've heard all year since the Cincinnati game how defenses are letting us catch these 5-yard hitches, and they're just letting us catch it and then they tackle it. That's the first time I've seen a guy jump one of those hitches, and he got in front of Barney and made the catch. Great play by the Maryland defender, by the way. But if I'm Dana Holgorsen, I'm looking at that, and what are you expecting to see this next week if a team's doing that? A double move. And there's an opportunity now for receivers like Barney to make that little hitch, make a double move, and now you've got a big play coming out of it too. And so There's always when defense tries to take something away and get more aggressive, then there's opportunities to take something from it. But the other thing, and I'll just always show this because a boomer here, our special teams, punt returns were 16th in the country, which seems unbelievable compared to where we've been the last few years. But now our kickoff returns are up to 7th in the country at 28.8 yards a return. So, we're seeing better field position because of that. That's a great sign. One other stat I want to show you here, and I'm going to bring it up, and it's the Big Ten site, so it's going to take me straight to defense. Let me get to rushing. I'm going to call myself out here. I did it yesterday with Dave, but I was complaining about how we're not getting the ball to EJ. He needs to be a bell cow, and he finally was. This last game, he did get over 20 carries. But you look right now at the Big Ten rushing stat leaders, and who's number 2 right there? Emmett Johnson. He has 105 carries, which is more than anybody else on this page that we're looking at here, the top 10 at least. 105 carries, 650 yards. We're at that midpoint of the season, so multiply this times 2. If he does that, he's going to have 210 carries for 1,300 yards. He has 7 touchdowns, 1 fumble right now. And I love that, and we need to keep feeding Emmett like we did last weekend. The one thing I would say is I don't know that we can increase the run numbers a lot by just simply going to Emmett more. This is where we need to continue to develop the run game around Emmett, getting Mosey more carries. He had 5 last week. It's time to get, a quarterback carry or 2, I think, into the mix. I think it's time that you can get a Barney or some people on some of the fly sweeps that they've done in the past. So there's more to develop within the run game. Emmett definitely needs the ball the way he got it last week. But I don't know how many more carries you're going to get to Emmett than the 21 he had. Maybe you give him 25, but the answer I don't think is to get him 30 a game. It's going to be to build the offense around him, the run game around him.
Yeah, it would be really nice to see somebody else with about 10, 11, 12 carries in a game get 50, 60, 70 yards just to kind of complement this. Because, Emmett's been great this year, and, I can't knock anything he's done. I hate to see him be the only option we have. Just for the wear and tear and just for the injury end of it, I'd hate to see him, get hurt or something like that just because, we're putting him out there so much. I don't expect that to happen, but you just want to have that other thing to fall back on, just another little weapon to throw out there to keep defenses on their toes at some point too, because, if it's all just Emmett, that's asking a lot out of him for an entire season. So.
Oh yeah, I agree. Well, I think that gets us through everything. We got through football a couple different times there. We did tweets of the week. We did our "What did you learn from last week's" segment, and of course we did courtside cooking. Great show, everyone. We've got another football game here and volleyball game Friday night. We've got Husker sports competing against each other on TV, but hopefully volleyball gets the very quick win, and you can watch that and get a sweep. And football's kicking off at 7:00. How about you, Rob? Let's start with you with some parting shots. What are you thinking?
Look, I just want to remind everyone that, go ahead, give what you can to the Bits of Broken Chair trophy, and go Big Red.
Go Big Red. Love it. Abby, how about you?
Yeah, not only do we have football and volleyball coming up, but we have basketball starting soon. Like, what
BYU?
a crazy world that we're in.
BYU is going to be in town, right?
The men will play BYU. That's going to be on Big Ten Plus. Our softball is doing fall ball. Our baseball is doing fall ball. I'm trying to find the women's basketball. The exhibition is going to be on Friday the 24th, so another week on BTN Plus. Guys, every sport, all the sports are happening right now. So yeah, check them out, support them. It's just let's enjoy this time while we can, friends.
And Abby, we didn't bring up basketball. We went for an hour and a half here without talking basketball. Yeah. Next week, I'm going to be traveling for work, so I'm not going to be on the show next week, but we're going to get some videos posted of basketball that you did last week at the media days in Chicago with Coach Williams and Coach Hoiberg. Talk a little bit about your time there here, with basketball and tease next week a little bit.
Ooh, what to talk about? A whole revamped, almost newly revamped team on the men's team, as always. A lot to be excited about from them. A couple familiar faces coming back. We get Rank Mast back for the whole season. Jamarcus Lawrence is back. And I believe, if I'm understanding, Rank will be good to go. He is shooting and doing all of those drills, so we should have him back. really excited for them to get started. Our women's team, Natalie Potts, who was injured early last season, is doing better. Whether she'll be playing or not before the conference starts, we don't really know, but expect to see her back for conference play. Some great pieces. They've got a plan in place to replace Alexis Markowski. We'll see. I'm excited to see both of those teams kind of get going and see how these coaches in their 10th and 5th. Is this Fred's 5th or 6th year, something like that?
I think he's 6th now. Yeah.
6. Okay. So see how in these kind of slightly longer tenures that they've had to see how they revamp with the new era of basketball.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to Brett Prince in the second season too. What she does coming back. And you got a hug from Amy Williams, right? So I mean,
yeah, it was exciting. It was so cool. Like, it's neat, guys. No, I think I'll say this, and I don't mean this in any way other than, like, I think we all know that, like, our men's sports get so much support. Like, obviously there's so much support for football. There's so much support for men's basketball. Volleyball gets it. Like, obviously we get a lot for volleyball, but I think, it means so much to, like, our women's basketball team. It means so much to our softball teams that our fan base shows up and shows out. And I more than anything, I think that's what it was from Amy, is just like, it's so cool that you're here, supporting them and being there for them and wanting to talk about women's basketball. And so I think that's a great thing about our fan base. And I would just, like, I say it every week to go support our women, but, like, really it means so much. It means so much to our women's sports that we show up. And I think that's great. We're one of the few places in the country, one of the few schools in the country that consistently support all of our women's sports. I think we ended up 4th or something in attendance between the 3 main women's sports. And so something like that, top 5, I can't remember. Amy said it, and it's just not there. So, like, I think that's so huge for our fan base. And I love that about us.
Well, I'm going to play a little video just real quick from DBK today at her presser, but it talked about the road fans.
The road games have been the biggest surprise to me, and it's not that the games are sold out, because I feel like I was expecting that. It's more the people that are crazy about Nebraska volleyball and the support we have. It's not just like volleyball people that enjoy watching any volleyball. It's true Husker fans, and to see them there and know people traveled really far to come watch us on the road. It's unique. There's nowhere else in the country it's like that.
I think that's a great way of saying it. And we want to see that with all the sports. We want to see it with the women's basketball team, with soccer, with the softball season that's coming up. We want to see it with all the men's sports too. So that's great. Thank you, Abbie, for giving that. And next week we are going to be talking some preseason basketball. Boomer, give us your parting shot.
Yeah, I'm just, kind of jealous she gets hugs from coaches. I just get restraining orders from emailing about Baron von Raschke being in the, Nebraska Hall of Fame from our athletic department. But yeah, that notwithstanding, I know the big talk on social media is about, will Rule go or will he won't go to Penn State? And it's just, there's nothing you can do as a Husker fan about it. Don't try to sit there and parse every word you hear from a coach. Coaches say what they're going to say. Athletic directors are going to say what they're going to say. You're not going to know anything until it happens. So if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just enjoy the season for what it is and just, go game by game. You don't have any real control of it unless you're, a multimillionaire and can afford the $40 million roster if you want to foot that bill, which maybe we've got some of those among the Redcast listeners. And if you do, hit us up, in our DMs. We've got some ideas. You could put that money to use with us as well. But otherwise, just go out and enjoy the games and enjoy, every Husker sport you can. And fall sports are about to go in full swing. So go Big Red.
Go Big Red. For my parting shot, I actually want to focus one other video that we posted or we put up here with DBK today, and she was talking about the D1 talent in state for volleyball, that Nebraska kids. Just listen to this for a sec.
I did my radio show today, and there's 74 Nebraska players playing Division I, which is crazy. Many in starting positions at Power 5 schools. So I think it's just a lot of pride in that this state is a volleyball state through and through, and from the highest level to the smallest level.
It just makes me proud as a Nebraska fan, as a Nebraskan. We've got great athletes out there in volleyball. This is a volleyball state, but we can go through the history of Husker football players and players that are on the team right now. We think of different basketball players, Markowski that just graduated there, Jordy Ball. We have so many athletes and so many different sports that are Nebraska kids, D1 talent that are playing at Nebraska. And I don't know, this is maybe an appreciation parting shot to all the great players from within the state and the coaches and the recruiters and the people that are keeping them in state, keeping them here so that we can cheer them on. So cheer them on, Husker fans. Continue to go out to Michigan this week and watch the volleyball teams if you're in that area. To go out to Twin Cities and cheer on the Huskers this weekend. Let's make it as loud as it was at Maryland last weekend. Those are the best things I think the Husker fans can do. Not to speculate on every single tweet that we see. So today we posted some of this stuff. We talked about some of it. I don't expect us to continue to talk about it on a week-to-week basis. There isn't going to be new news to talk about. And to Boomer's point there's nothing that we can do about it anyways if it's gonna happen. But what we can do is we can root this team on. Let's enjoy every single game here. We're 5-1 in football. We are undefeated in volleyball. We're dominating. It's been a great fall so far, and we expect to continue to see a great fall. So until next week, that's another Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.
A Herd at Sports Network production.